Hello, dear friend. In this video, I want to share with you 5 interesting astrology facts about Venus, which I'm pretty sure will help you to understand the nature of the planet better and also to be able to interpret it and to understand how it describes you and how you can improve your life with that. And I also want to challenge you. I'm absolutely sure that even if you are a professional astrologer, there would be at least one of those interesting facts that you wouldn't know. So please let me know in the comments if you have known about those facts, and if not, also you can let me know. So the first interesting fact about Venus is that it's always up to 48 degrees away from the sun. It can't be more. It can't be far away. It can't have an opposition with the sun. It's always nearby. And if we remember that each sign includes 30 degrees, it means that your Venus can either be in the same sign as your sun, or the two neighbor signs on the side, or the ones which are a bit further from that. So basically, there are only 5 signs which would be possible for your Venus. And let's say that you are a Gemini. It means that your Venus can only be in Gemini, in Taurus and Cancer, or Leo or Aries. Those are the only options. If you are a Gemini, your Venus cannot be in Capricorn or Sagittarius or Scorpio and so on. Venus is always close by the sun. And there is a deeper meaning in that. It means that our emotions are always affecting our own expression, and there is a resonance, there is a connection between the sun, which is our own creative individual expression, our creativity, and also the emotions and our ability to relate and connect to other people and to enjoy beauty and all the other stuff that Venus represents. So from this point of view, we should always know that Venus and the sun are supposed to be very close together. And so is the same about our emotions and feelings. We should always be aware of them. We shouldn't try to detach from them. We shouldn't try to push them away. We shouldn't try to put them under the carpet or do anything else which separates us from our emotions. They are supposed to be part of us, part of our individual expression, and we should always kind of like keep an eye on this important life area. The next interesting fact is about a little bit of statistics. So how many people have Venus in the same sign as their sun, or in the next signs, which are right on the two sides of their sun sign, or the signs which are in sextile, so which are kind of like the furthest away from the sun. So the most common case is when the sun is in one sign and Venus is in one of the neighbor signs. So in our example, if we take again the sun in Gemini, statistically, the highest number of people would have Venus either in Taurus or in Cancer. And this is pretty interesting because the signs which are neighbors, in this case for Gemini, that would be Taurus and Cancer, they are really different. In astrology, we have the expression that those signs don't see each other because they don't share anything in common. They don't belong to the same polarity in terms of masculine or feminine energy. They don't belong to the same modality in terms of fixed, mutable, or cardinal, and they don't belong to the same element, earth, fire, air, or water. So they have completely different characteristics if they are neighbor signs. And from this point of view, those signs are kind of like strangers. Even though they're neighbors, they are also in a way strangers, and they represent really different qualities. And from this perspective, if that's your case, which again is the most common case, so most people would have this, it means that we need more time to understand our own emotions. So if your sun is in Gemini but your Venus is in Cancer, those are like completely different energies, but they are both relevant and important for you because overall, our whole emotionality, ability to connect to people, it's not just Venus. It's a combination of Venus and the Sun. So overall, if you want to understand your Venus and also your emotional life better, you should always consider the Sun as well. And for most people, this would be like a learning path, because you need to understand how you can combine, how you can find a compromise, or how you can fulfill both needs of your Sun and your Venus. So most people would have this lesson. The next in the statistics is the case when Venus and the Sun are in the same sign. This can be considered as a positive thing because there is an alignment between our individuality, our creative expression, who we consider ourselves to be, and also the emotions, the feelings, our emotional needs to connect to others. Of course, this is not a guarantee that your emotional life would be without any troubles or problems or things to work on and lessons. But on certain level, this puts you in a different situation. And the rarest case statistically is when Venus is in the signs which are further away from the sign position of the Sun. So basically we call those connections sextiles. In our example, if the Sun is in Gemini, if Venus is in Aries or in Leo. Those would be like the rarest cases, so less people have such positions. From one side, the emotions are far away from the Sun, yes, but on the other side, there is more alignment between those signs which are in sextile. They share the same polarity. They are either both masculine or feminine signs. So from this point of view, we may find more alignment. We may kind of like be able to combine energies and qualities which are from one side different, and yet they can be integrated. But this is like the rarest case. So the most common case is if Venus is in one sign, or if the Sun is in one sign, Venus is in the signs which the Sun will not be able to see. Next, moving on. Venus can be either morning or evening planet. This has a real astronomical explanation. Like on the day when you were born, did Venus literally rise on the horizon before or after the Sun? If Venus rises before the Sun, it means that you can see her on the horizon. It means that she is an evening planet. If Venus rises after the Sun, it means that she is an evening planet. The way to find this out from your birth chart is by exploring the sign positions of Venus and the Sun. If Venus is in a sign which is before the Sun, then she is a morning planet. In our example, let's go back to this Sun in Gemini. If the Sun is in Gemini and Venus is in Aries or Taurus, this would be a morning Venus. If the Sun is in Gemini and Venus is in Cancer or Leo, this would be an evening Venus. By following this logic, you can also check your own chart and find out if Venus is evening or morning planet. This is something that we can apply only to Venus and Mercury. Mercury is the other exception that also has the same characteristic, evening or morning. If your Venus is a morning planet, so it rises before the Sun, usually those are people who can be very engaged with their emotions right away. They may fall in love faster than others. They may also fall out of love faster than others, or let things go or move on. So generally, the emotional life is more dynamic. There could be more changes. The person is usually more adaptable to new experiences and shifts and changes. Of course, don't take this like, oh, that's like the final thing. It's 100%, what happens in your chart, because there can always be nuances. Let's say your Venus is in Capricorn, the Sun is in Pisces. Well, yes, this will be a morning Venus, but Venus in Capricorn is not that flexible and adaptable to changes. So the point is, we always need to include all the other information we know and we can use astrologically. However, knowing this evening or morning position is also like another hint that you can use. And if Venus is an evening planet, those are people who need more time. They need more time to open up emotionally. They need more time to fall in love, or after that to forget or to let go of previous relationships. Their dynamic is not so intense. They need more time for processing. They don't open up so easily. But again, that's just one of the pieces of the puzzle. But if you consider this in your interpretation, of course, you will be more accurate and you will get more things clear. Moving on to number 4, about the retrograde phase of Venus. So Venus is retrograde only once in 18 months. And it's retrograde for 40 days. So it's not even each year that we have Venus retrograde. So anytime we do have this transit, it is pretty significant. And during times of retrograde phases, it's time to look more internally towards your personal life, emotional life, self-values, your own resources, and all the other things that Venus represents. But what's even more interesting that maybe you know or you don't know is that Venus is retrograde in the same sign every 8 years. So as I said, it's retrograde every 18 months, so every year and a half, but it changes the sign positions. But her cycle is working in such a way that every 8 years it happens to be retrograde in the same sign. For example, this year, 2023, we have Venus retrograde in Leo. 8 years ago, Venus has been retrograde in Leo as well. And what you can do is, when you notice that, okay, summer of 23, we have Venus retrograde in Leo, you can go back 8 years ago and check what was important for you back then. What were the important themes? What have changed in your life? And it doesn't mean that exactly the same thing will happen every time, because each cycle brings something new. There's a new layer, something changes. However, you may find something valuable. You may find something either similar or something that may give you a hint or a taste of what you can expect and how this transit may manifest in your life. So every 8 years, we have the possibility to re-experience, to relive, or to relearn some kind of Venus lessons. And finally, we get to the 5th indication or interesting fact about Venus. And here I'm almost ready to bet that you wouldn't know this even if you're a professional astrologer, because frankly, it's very specific. And here it is. Statistically, the most common aspect that people have, if we consider both major aspects, minor aspects, and we include all of the possible planetary combinations, then the findings, the results are showing that the most common aspect ever is the semi-sextile between the sun and, the semi-square, my mistake, the semi-square between Venus and the sun. The semi-square is a 45-degree aspect. It's a minor challenging aspect. There is like a real astronomical explanation why this happens. I won't go into details, but briefly to understand that that's not just a coincidence. It's happening because when Venus is around its elongation, it's the furthest away from the sun. As we said, it can go up to 48 degrees, but when it gets closer to this really distant position from the sun, her speed becomes very equal to the speed of the sun. So they both move with approximate speed of 1 degree. And for quite a long time, they're both moving, but they keep the same distance between each other, which is approximately the 45-degree aspect. That's why this is the most common aspect. Statistically, most people have, from all the aspects, this is the most common that people have. And of course, we can also explore this. You may check if you have it. I personally do. And what does this mean? It means that we all collectively have something to learn about ourselves and our emotions, and how to communicate ourselves with our own emotions and feelings, and then how to communicate those feelings to other people and to the external environment, and to find the proper expression and all of this. So if you go deeper, you may find even more explanations, or not only explanations, but like consequences or possible lessons for us as a collective. And especially if you also have this aspect, you may understand something about yourself. So here were the 5 interesting facts about Venus. And I want to ask you to let me know in the comments if you knew them, and especially if you knew about the last one. Also, since we are having Venus retrograde during the summer of 23, if you happen to watch this video at the right time, you are also welcome to join our webinar, which will be dedicated to Venus retrograde during the summer of 23. It will be very informative, it would be very insightful, very interesting, and we will all together prepare for this exciting, interesting, potentially transformative period, because this time it would be more interesting than ever. Venus will be retrograde in the sun sign in Leo, and we already know that the sun and Venus have such an interesting relationship. So this summer will be very, very exciting. If you're interested, find the link somewhere in the comments, in the description box, or go to my website, marsstars.net, and please join us.